Hey everybody, looks like the pictures went away. I saw the smiley faces up there. We're much nicer without the mask on. So I'm Steve Berger, I'm Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer for MSC Industrial Supply Company. If you walked outside and looked hard enough for the 5-story building here in town on 77, if you don't know who we are or what we do, we basically sell about 2 million things to about 500,000 customers from about 5,000 suppliers and do it in a very cross-channel way. So that's salespeople and websites, direct mail, digital marketing, et cetera. Prior to that, I spent some time in human capital management. Before that, about 15 years or 20 years in electronics, all in e-com strategy and other fun things. I'm excited to be here today because I think we live in an age of ideas, and an age where ideas and any idea can be brought to market with less friction than I think ever before in our history. So I'm really excited to hear what your ideas are, how well thought out they are, and which of those I can steal and take back my company.
All right, thank you so much. And we have another judge tuning in from an remote undisclosed location. Taylor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you all hear me?
Yes, that we can. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're at this event.
Wonderful. Good to be with you all. My name is Taylor Mclemore. I'm the Managing Director of the TechStars Workforce Development Accelerator. So I lead one of our approximately 50 accelerators globally. I focus on all things, a broad definition of workforce. So I invest in founders that are building the future of work, and more than anything are enabling human potential through work. I have experience investing across a broad set of areas. I can't wait to hear what you all are working on. And I'm just a big believer that one of the highest leverage ways to create positive change in this world is through entrepreneurship and through groups of people like you all coming together and figuring out what needs to exist that doesn't yet. Also importantly to me, I'm a 2007 graduate from Davidson College, so go Cats.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our judges. We appreciate your valuable time here on Sunday afternoon. It's so beautiful, so I know there's a lot of great things to be happening outside. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how this final part is going to run. So we have 5 teams that are going to be pitching, and each team is going to have 5 minutes to pitch. After that, the judges are going to have 5 minutes to ask questions. The way it'll happen is when time runs out for the team, I will cut all of you off. So I will begin applauding, everyone will support me in that applause, and then we will stop the team. When the judges are asking their questions, so long as they get the final question in before the 5 minutes are up, you will have time to answer that question. So do be mindful of that. I will remind you as we go through. Our first team is already on deck, and you can see that they have their mics on. We'll applaud for them in a moment, but I love the enthusiasm. They are already mic'd up and ready to go. As soon as they get into Q&A mode, when they're about 2-3 minutes into Q&A, we need the next team, which you already saw your order, so you know who's next. The next team is not here with me on the little post-it, but the next team will need to start coming up so that we can get you mic'd. We're gonna hand over the mics to you, and then I'm gonna give you the handhelds so that you can finish answering questions through the handheld. Okay. Make sense? Cool, awesome. So we need to keep that moving, and when you are done answering questions, do not run away, because I'm gonna ask you a few questions. So you'll be up here for a moment. All right, questions, comments, concerns before we get started with our final pitches? I think we're good. All right, so I think without further ado, let's give a big round of applause for our first team. Mojo. All right, so I am going to step out of the way. You have your clicker, everything's ready to go. I'm going to set the timer and start it as soon as you begin speaking.
All right, thank you so much, y'all. We are Mojo, and we are working to tackle one of the biggest issues out there. I'm sure many of you have experienced it, if you're not experiencing it currently. So, I'd like you to meet Lily. She is our ideal customer. She's a sophomore in college, studying environmental science. She's 20 years old. She sees her therapist once a week, and she is struggling with anxiety and depression. And as a result of that, she has not been enjoying her hobbies that she normally enjoys and undertakes in her daily life. So this opens up to the broader theme of mental health and anxiety and depression. This is one of the most common issues we see on college campuses nowadays. And yesterday we went out, did some research, sent out a survey to not only Davidson students, but some other students. And we saw that of our respondents, 80% of them self-reported having anxiety, or 80% of them reported having mental illness, and of that 80%, 80% said they had anxiety, 60% said they had depression. So the issue we're really working to tackle here is actually loss of enjoyment, and it's one of the most common symptoms of depression and anxiety. We find people stop enjoying their daily activities, stop enjoying going out with friends, their hobbies, the things that really give them a lot of passion in their life. So, as one mental health professional, Trudy Griffin, expressed, one of the best ways to combat this issue is providing yourself a reward immediately after you've done an activity you enjoy. So this brings us to our solution, Mojo. It's an app that is calendar-based that allows users to input their goals and see their progress over the course of the month. The thing that makes us unique is we offer a tangible reward and a personal reward, and it's really focused on enjoyment and providing a better quality of life. We do so by users setting goals, and if they desire, they can opt into a subscription service where they receive a box once a month, and that serves as a validation and extra incentive for them to go out and hit their goals and complete the behaviors that really give them passion in their life.
And so this is basically what the app will look like. Once you log in, you'll be able to set different goals and add points to them. And so this point system basically adds up and shows you your progress at the top with different thresholds you can meet. And so those thresholds will actually have different additions into your subscription box. So this is a monthly self-care box that everyone will receive at the end of the month. However, if you met these different thresholds, you'll receive different customizations in your box. And this is an example of the box. We plan on working with local vendors to get some deals on some items to put in the self-care box. For example, coupons are one that we could include and also encourage people to get out more. And so from our survey results, something that these were the most common responses that people identified for needing from apps to motivate themselves. And so we really stuck on to rewards and gifts as something that people found useful for motivation in their daily life. And so that's how, kind of how this idea was born. So what sets us apart from other competitors is that we really focus on validating enjoyment. So a lot of apps out there that are habit-based or focused on calendar tracking, those are very productivity driven and want you to drive results, want you to better yourself at a certain skill or hobby, but we really want to focus on just enjoyment. And so we really believe that not everything has to add up to be some huge result, and it can't just be about you enjoying your life and being rewarded for that. And also this tangible reward. So a lot of self-care apps out there are more content-based or focused on connecting people to therapists. And so we really wanted to provide some tangible reward to users for working on their self-care. And so these are financials. We'll basically be charging a $15 a month subscription, and these are the primary costs that will be involved in our startup. We also plan on bootstrapping and looking into federal grants. And so our go-to-market strategy is that we'll initially target therapists and school counselors for referrals of students they think who are lacking in some enjoyment in their life and could use this as an incentive. And we'll also target college students for ambassador programs, since we do have a physical, tangible product that does make spreading the word a bit more easy on a college campus.
All right, judges, so this is your opportunity to ask questions. Steve, would you mind doing the honor of kicking this off?
Sure. So thank you. First of all, I acknowledge that what you're tackling here is very real. So I think the topic that you chose to tackle is a very real one. From a question perspective, I guess the place my mind immediately goes to is really another calendar, right? I've got a calendar at my office on my phone, and am I gonna look at another calendar now? Have you thought about the barrier to entry there, and if you think about those who have old digital calendars, what's to prevent them from just killing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely one thing we thought about, and we wanted to make it so we could sync other calendar apps just right into your Mojo, and it would be very simple, streamlined. I've seen this technology with other calendar apps, like I've got in my school calendar just right on my iPad pretty easily.
So you'll integrate into the other calendars?
Yeah.
And also to add on to that, it's very centered around enjoyment, so it's not similar to other calendars where they really want you to drive habits, they want you to maintain a streak. We're more okay with people having downtime, okay with them centered around enjoyment, and we think that should still be planned as well.
I'm curious to know, when you did the survey, did you send it to students that you already knew who might have mental health illness, or did you just send it to a random group and 80% came back?
No, so yesterday morning, we went out to campus and we just approached students. We asked them to fill out a survey for us, and Katie also helped us out by sending it to some people she knew. So.
And then I have another question. So for when you think about who's going to pay for this, right? Because I think most college students are still on their parents' pocketbook. Have you thought about the fact that the buyer and the user and the actual person paying for it are two different people?
Yeah. So we thought about different revenue strategies as well, but that's why we kind of wanted to keep it at the low price of $15 a month. I feel that is something as a college student, if I did really want this, I could set aside $50 a month. And I say, just looking at my own personal spending habits, I would say, if I were to really analyze it, $15 a month, I think is probably about how much I might spend on my self-care each month.
And also to add on to that, the tangible loss is a huge component of why it is $15 a month. So it is not just paying to be on an app, it is paying to plan out your activities, it is receiving that self-care cost for the majority of the cost.
I have a couple questions. First one, I don't know if you guys would say, who is else in this market space, competitors? Who else is, because I know mental health is a huge field right now, so who do you see that has something similar to you guys right now?
So there's a decent number of meditation apps out there, or very content-driven ones, so things like Headspace, Calm, those really centered around content. And then there's also a couple others like Habitica, who also kind of value driving habits. And so we've seen most of those are kind of in their separate categories, and if they do have any planning habits involved, they're very catch-all apps, so it's not simple. It's content plus scheduling plus therapy plus a lot of different ones. So this one's more simplified, and also our subscription box is what differentiates us as well.
Okay, the second question I have, with that answer, is have you guys also thought about possibly partnering up with schools and organizations, since they are focused on mental health for their employees and students rather than having students themselves pay for it?
Yeah, so we thought about partnering with therapists, maybe trying to get therapists to refer their patients using Mojo, and then somehow getting health insurance to pay for that. We haven't gotten to that stage yet, but we're looking into it.
Also, to the school's point, we were planning on targeting school counselors and seeing how this works with the students that they interact with, and then also growing the campus presence through there.
All right, and Taylor has a question from his undisclosed location.
I feel like I have mentioned multiple times, but thank you for the presentation. One of the challenges with box businesses is there defensibility in what you're going to put in the box, or if you prove that there's success here, will others just copy and try to chew on Mojo?
Yeah, so we were looking to partner with specific businesses to make our box especially unique and help everyone in the process, help those local self-care businesses, the students who's actually receiving that good, and us as well. I think also we have a little bit of a first comer advantage. So if you're able to scale up the business, we will have an advantage over our competitors. We do try and come in and just copy exactly what we've done, especially considering the data we gain over time that could serve very valuable in helping us scale and maintain a competitive advantage.
Thank you.
And to add on,
Go ahead.
I was just to add on to that, this is why the partnerships with local businesses to the campus is really important, since fostering that relationship will also add value to the students who are receiving the boxes, since they will receive deals and coupons to those local businesses. So having that relationship with the vendors is also important for making it more difficult for competitors to come in.
All right, we got time for one more question. So, Angela,
So for the local businesses, that means you need to have a local person, right? And so there's an expense associated with that local to each university we're looking at. And have you thought through that? Would that be like a program manager, or would that be a technology piece as well, or?
Yeah, so we're planning on basically starting at Davidson, and so we see how it works on a smaller scale. But that's why the college brand ambassador program is important, not only for growing the presence on campus, but we can also have students assist with fostering that local connection.
all right, thank you so much. Let's give it up for Mojo. Stay up here for a moment while we bring up the next team and hand over your mics. We'll use mine for now. So while our judges wrap up their questions and the next team gets mic'd up, we're not done yet. So I just wanted to ask a few questions about the weekend. Can you tell us a little bit about what were the biggest takeaways, like perhaps one big takeaway from the weekend, from this experience?
There was a lot, but I certainly think doing the market research and going out there and talking to our customers and seeing what they value the most and actually figuring out how you're going to address that problem by talking to your customers and seeing what they want was really insightful to me, and it opened up my eyes.
Awesome. I would say with brainstorming, keeping things simple. That like as a first thing,
Yeah.
but
Previous farmer education programs in the region, historical data on the region's economic and environmental development, and research on current programs and initiatives by NGOs in Kenya. To focus and prioritize needs, we conducted interviews with current and past generation farmers from the Rift Valley of Kenya, along with USDA, Department of Defense, and independent soil and conservation science experts. Our research and interviews also brought to light two market constraints that needed to be considered. First, Kenya is a wonderfully diverse country with more than 70 dialects commonly spoken. The majority of agribusiness resources are only available in English, and most Kenyan-produced news and resources are only in Swahili. These language barriers mean that even when a smallholder farmer looks for resources, they do not have access to it. Second, technology in its many forms does not see constant distribution and use throughout the region. Ultimately, we've identified a lack of educational access and understanding of business, leading to the facilitation of predatory market practices in Kenya. Our solution, therefore, is to create a financial literacy program to train local Kenyan farmers to become certified advisors for other farmers in their respective communities. Our plan will place the program with non-governmental organizations already established in the region. These organizations have already formed relationships and trust within the communities we want to serve. We provide value in a pre-baked and adaptable program that enhances their current objectives and outreach. In addition to this training, we will provide messaging for community leaders to share at social and religious gatherings, while encouraging them to take part in the recruitment and identification of advisor candidates.
Farm will rely on the strength gained from its channel partners to create and advertise the training program. By first selecting a corporate partner to add financial support and along with subject matter experts, we are well placed to offer value to the NGOs. We are dedicated to engaging with corporate partners who are committed to sustainable and ethical impact practices which closely align with our goals. We are currently working to identify viable organizations in the finance and agribusiness industries. As we develop community-based expertise in education, we help build a local knowledge base, empower farmers to make sound business decisions, and continue the development of good farming practices. We have a unique focus on information going to the community from sources within the community. This program will be designed the end user, but our model needs the commitment of channel partners. We have identified 4 possible partner NGOs that each work within the agricultural, economic, and resource development sphere. Rift Valley Foundation, Pomoza Africa Harvest Biotech Foundation, and World Vision. Like many startups, we will have a great deal of initial costs with staffing and development. We hope to raise some capital through grants as we pursue more sustainable partnerships. As we grow, some essential roles will be grant writers and academic design consultants. Our operating costs will include time and labor to create the programming and investment in initial training to the NGOs. We are planning for additional costs to support programming updates. Many of these same expenses will reoccur when working with the NGO partners with the addition of advisor stipend programs and training expenses. We plan to launch the program in Kenya's Rift Valley, utilizing our founders' existing community connections. This begins by creating a program with basic cash flow accounting and training 2 advisors in Nakuru. Thank you.
All right, so now we will take 5 minutes for our judges to ask some follow-up questions. Sure, you ready?
So thank you, by the way. First question was for me was where did the idea originate? What was the genesis of the idea in the first place?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm originally from Kenya and from a farming family. My grandparents, my parents' family were pretty much 80% of my villagers farms. So that's where the idea came from, of seeing these challenges in my community, and of seeing people talking about it since, like, how I could understand the challenges, and I haven't seen specific programs really address these problems, so that's where the idea came from.
Gotcha, thank you. And just for clarification, I wasn't clear if this was intended to be nonprofit or for-profit entity?
Nonprofit.
I was surprised to see that it was 25% mobile users in Kenya, because from a banking perspective, we actually study Kenya, and it's actually 90% banking is done on mobile.
Yes.
So where did that data point come from?
Okay, so we did a research that we had like a secondary source that had done a research within specifically the farming community. So it's not 25% of Kenya that have access, but 25% of farmers in Kenya that have access to mobile technology.
Yeah, I've got a question and also maybe a little suggestion as well. So personally, I think if you brought in a personal story to your pitch,
Yes.
that would have helped a lot more, because I would have gotten, okay, she's from Kenya, here's where they got the idea, here's because I'm asking, who did you interview, the customers there, how did you get those data points without knowing that you were the one that came with that idea, so that would be a good thing. And then secondly, also, the corporations, companies you want to work with, how you vet to make sure that everything is up and up, because the problem with, nonprofits in Africa especially, is they get the money, but the money doesn't see the people. It goes in between the presidents and everybody goes there. So how do you verify that the money actually goes to what you're going to get to?
Okay, yeah, so that was like one of our biggest challenges, and we're trying to get the funding and the money from our corporations. So we're trying to look for corporations that will actually fund us, whether it's in Kenya or from many different parts of the world. And then we work with the NGOs, the money would actually go to the NGOs, we work with the NGOs to give us access to the community members. And so where the money will actually go is to the programming of the people who will teach these courses, these financial literacy courses, and to the stipend of the people, the farmers that will that are going to teach other farmers. So in that way, we will still be the ones managing that money, the ones seeing that money goes to the right channels.
All right, and Taylor.
Sure, and I apologize if I broke up for a little bit in some of the presentation, so if you answered this, I apologize. But I would love to ask a philosophical question. I did hear you say that you were going to work on building a sustainable business model at the scale, but I spend a lot of time working with companies in the upskilling and reskilling space. What's your philosophy on long term? Who should be the one to pay for upskilling and reskilling? Is it the student, and can they pay for it, or is it another partner?
So I didn't get the last part of it.
Who should be responsible as the ultimate economic party for trying to help upskill people? Should it be the student or someone else?
So I think it would be definitely a partnership between us and the farmers advisors, because we want to train farmers that will actually train other farmers in the community. We don't want to just put in some resources of people that will train them for a specific, maybe like 1 or 2 months and then disappear. We want people who will be trained, stay in that community, train other farmers, and be consultant to other farmers. And then of course we have to update the information that we give out there. We have to update with like new technologies and new other patterns. So we'll still, in the long run, have to be there. We have representatives being there, continually training the advisors, that the farmers advisors can go into the community and train their fellow farmers.
Thank you.
And my assumption is that for the farmers, you're actually training them on what's happening pricing wise, what's happening with commodity market pricing, what's happening with weather patterns, what's happening. And I've seen similar technologies like this being used for farms in India. Have you researched and done any competitive analysis on the technologies that exist today? Can you just ask them to translate into farming?
Yes, so most of these technologies actually exist. The problem is it doesn't get to the right farmers. So the weather patterns, predicting and all that, it does exist, that technology exists, but most of these research and these technologies in English. which most of the farmers don't understand. So as much as we have this information, we don't actually have a person who can explain to the farmers, okay, this means like it's going to rain this much in this month, this means that you should plant this type of plant, or you should do this, or you should change this in your plan. So we need those people who use that information, the existing information that we have, and translate it to the farmers. You also need people who will teach the farmers that for the specific inputs that you put into your product. I definitely enjoyed getting to learn about what we were doing. This wasn't a topic that I had very much exposure to before this, and so I got to learn a lot of new things. And then again, with the business side, just starting to see how ideas form, how specific you have to be, how that kind of works from idea. The whole point of it, we get idea to somewhat of a creation. So I really enjoyed that part.
I thought it was really amazing how the program is set up to take three people who possibly have never met each other, who come in without the same idea and can co-work and get so deep into an idea and make the work flow so quickly and move and progress over such a short amount of time. We were really set up for success, and it's just amazing to see how it all flowed very quickly and easily.
Awesome, thank you for that. What would you say was perhaps like the biggest challenge or surprise, something that just caught you off guard, or that you just found to be very challenging for you this weekend? You know, because maybe it's not something you're comfortable with normally.
Getting specific. Yeah, so once you started, we had like this huge idea that we thought that we want to solve this problem, but we realized how big our problem was and we needed to get very specific. So getting that specific to the details, that was the hardest thing that, at least according to me, that was like our hardest challenge, getting specific to one case, knowing that we cannot solve everything. At first, started to like agriculture with supply chain, we realized we couldn't solve the whole supply chain and needed to pinpoint one specific plan. So that was the time.
I would agree with everything she just said.
When we started the project, I thought, oh my gosh, we are never going to find prime resources for this. And I was pretty shocked when we sat down, talked amongst ourselves, and then came up with ideas. It was like, oh wait, I actually know somebody with that. Oh wait, I can make a phone call. Maybe I can get somebody out of bed, which is what happened with one. It was phenomenal that I thought we're never going to be able to make that acquired, and it really just, it happened. I was blown away by that.
Awesome, thank you so much. Let's give it up for Team Farm. Thank you. All right, let's get the next team up here. We've got Fresh Wheels presenting next. Looks like you are mic'd up, ready to go. Careful with the wires there. We've got your clicker here, so whoever's going to need that. Everything good? All right, so whenever you start, I will begin the timer.
Hello? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. We are Team Fresh Wheels, and today we are going to take you through the journey of living in a food desert. Meet Ebony Matthew. Her journey begins on Nobles Avenue in Western Charlotte. She's got her grocery list and a $1.50 bus fare. She's going grocery shopping, but she won't find fresh food anywhere in her own neighborhood. What should be a simple trip ends up taking Ebony 48 minutes both ways, taking the bus, the light rail, and walking across busy South Boulevard. The worst part, this isn't uncommon. Families living in urban food deserts lack access to nutritious and affordable groceries. Recently, there has been a lot of focus within the Charlotte community upon food deserts and areas of inequality within the city. A food desert is defined by the USDA as an area that is both low income and low access. Entering Fresh Meals, a mobile way to make healthy foods accessible to all individuals living in urban communities through an empowering shopping experience. 15% of Mecklenburg County residents live in a food desert, so we are focusing on this market for proof of concept, and we will measure our impact using stats on the number of returning customers and groceries sold. Our solution combines a food truck model with a traditional grocery experience. We will source excess and essential foods from local grocery chains and farmers and then resell in neglected communities. This food will be transported and sold out of a bus that will be repurposed into a mobile marketplace so that customers like Ebony can prepare healthy food for her children instead of taking them to unhealthy options such as Jack in the Box.
So the main options that we're competing with are fast food chains as well as gas station snacks. And so although these alternatives are quick, convenient, and usually affordable, they don't provide the healthy shopping experience that our core customers are looking for. And I want to emphasize that we are not making going to the grocery store easier. We are making it possible for all people. So this is very ideal for the alternative of hours and hours just for a simple trip to the grocery store. So, as we state, our business model is simple. We're just purchasing discounted and excess foods from local grocery chains and farmers, and then in order to help facilitate this, our vehicles in high population areas within local food deserts within Western Charlotte. And then we are also going to partner with local nonprofits and other organizations aligned with our mission in order to help gain visibility. There are expenses that we're going to have to take care of in order to make this possible, including buying a bus, obviously repurposing it, purchasing inventory, and paying for all the necessary licenses and permits. But if we're able to take care of all these, it'll be possible for us to deliver a value prop of accessible, nutritious foods. So this is just a look at our roadmap going forward. Before we even try to do all this, we're going to begin with an MVP in the form of a pop-up shop grocery store in a high population food desert in Charlotte, trying to validate our assumptions, gain feedback, and iterate on our current solution. And if that goes successfully, we're going to begin pursuing funding in the form of a Kickstarter focused on different friends and family, as well as entrepreneurial grants such as the NCID and micro grant, different grants through organizations that are focused on battling food disparities, such as the American Healthy Food Financing Initiative. And once we gain capital, we'll buy that bus, repurpose it, begin making a schedule where we're going to park, find those partners, and then continue to iterate and hone in on how to make our solution as accessible and convenient for our target customers. So some key takeaways: we are Fresh Meals. We're addressing the need for accessible, nutritious foods in local food deserts across Charlotte. Our solution is cost-effective and simple, as a better alternative to fast food and gas station snacks. And we, on top of everything else, are a diverse group of passionate people who are focused on combating food disparities in our local community. So yeah, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us, and I hope you'll support us in our mission to combat the lack of accessible, nutritious food in our local community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So let's bring up the other co-founders to join all of you up here inside of the blue tape over there. And Steve, please kick us off.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So I guess I'd start with, you talk about the food deserts, I get it, and the opportunity that exists with affordable, nutritious food in these areas.
Did you talk at all about, I think, through the challenge of behavioral modification? Because not just access, but fast food is cheap and tastes good. What's your plan to change behavior?
I mean, that was the main reason why we wanted to paint a picture of people like Ebony, right? So just because these things are very convenient for these people doesn't mean that there aren't customers out there who are constantly looking for healthy alternatives. So I don't think there's a lot of people who want healthy things, it's just they don't have the means to get to the places they want to get. So you're good with that.
And just to add to that, just because a place is a food desert doesn't necessarily mean that it is low income. There's a lot of affluent areas that face this problem, particularly college towns and other areas that tend to be more isolated or in the suburbs. And so when we're looking at what options for communities that need access to healthy food, that's why we chose the mobile options so that we can come to them as opposed to trying to change behavioral patterns too much. And we spoke to people who specifically work in urban food security and things of that nature. And a lot of what they said is that instead of having food banks and dented up cans or like produce that no one wants, like that's not really empowering. So we want food that people want to eat and they feel good about making for their families. And so I think little changes in morale and things like that will definitely help empower changing the behavioral patterns as well. And I think it'll kind of happen subconsciously.
Well, I was also going to mention that if this works out as a pilot in the future iteration, there will be also education opportunities through simple things like providing recipes with the things that we sell. And if I have a say about it, I would love to teach cooking classes.
My question is, did you guys think about possibly partnering with local groups to do like community gardens? Because I'm from Atlanta, and that's really popular in the, some of those neighborhoods that have food that inner city, urban gardens, and they teach the people how to farm and get their own produce. Y'all talk about that?
Absolutely, that was actually a thing that we explored greatly in the beginning. It just kind of went into who's gardening and how much supply. So I think there's a great value in using those gardens, but we want to make sure that there's always good supply. So if we start with grocery stores and things like that, we can also partner with gardens, but just making sure there's enough in the beginning as well as.
And you guys are a nonprofit, right?
Yes.
When you studied the customer that's nonprofit, did you see what percent of them were families versus singles? Like you said, there are affluents who are also food deserts in the city. Like I'm curious to know, like you spoke to a couple of people, but kind of from a macro perspective, what percent of the families? Because then I would think of national challenge in schools. So I'm curious what you're doing.
Yeah, actually statistically, if families who are low income or in food deserts, majority of those families have children. And I think there's also a large motivational factor because, maybe if I were not eating healthy, not giving myself nutrition, but people are inclined to provide for their children and are going to want to seek out those healthy options for their children as well. So there's, statistically speaking, there's more families in these positions, but also the motivational factor of I want healthy food is there.
Taylor.
Thank you. Such a meaningful hang on. My question is, do you have a theory why no one has built this solution yet? What is it that you all understand about this market opportunity that no one has seen?
That's a great question. And I think in our research, we did see variations of this thing being built. And we saw that the reason why it's not scalable is because it has to be local. A lot of these community-based things, if they're too big, then they're not really serving the purpose that they're supposed to. Money doesn't go exactly where it needs to go. And especially with trying to get fresh produce to people, it just needs to be something that's more local based. So we looked at different nonprofits that do similar things. We looked at one specifically in Canada that does somewhat similar mobile option. We saw community gardens in Baltimore and the Northern Virginia area. And the pattern that we saw is they're most successful when they're locally based. And so we wanted to focus on giving back to our community, and specifically we saw that since 15% of the residents in Mecklenburg County face living in a food desert. We wanted to look at that and try to tackle the problem here at home.
Thank you.
So many other questions? Going once, going twice? I think we're good. Thank you so much. Let's give it up for them. And while we switch on your mics, I've got a couple of questions for you. I did notice that there is one in the audience.
Yes.
So go ahead and ask it. I'll repeat it on the mic.
Yeah, no problem at all. There's an organization called Meals on Wheels that pretty much does this already. Have you thought about partnering with them instead of like buying a bus, but actually integrating them into the certain communities you want to work with?
Yes, we did look into their model. The difference was that
We're referring to Meals on Wheels.
Yes.
yes. So we did look into working with Meals on Wheels doing something similar. The difference though was that their families in these cities in these certain situations. So yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge for me.
Yeah, we definitely started too big and we're trying to combine food waste with deserts, right? So how essentially the redistribution problem, and we soon realized that that's actually solving two or more problems at the same time, and there was no way that we tackle it in 2 days.
Biggest challenge.
Okay, I would say for me, I have done things in the food space before. I did a lot of food safety stuff on my college campus and saw that stuff firsthand. And so I think seeing all the other barriers that I didn't even consider still something in the food space, but slightly different, which changed everything and the scope of what we could do. And so I think in navigating all of that, it just taught me once again just student of life, there's always things to learn about how much you think you know about something. So
I think while working on this idea was something we really the rest of it was, creating an idea that was self-sustainable, but also still was able to create a lot of impact. And so I think thinking through all these different situations and factors that contribute to that, it was difficult at first, but as we discussed and we began, as Sophia said, and Emerson said, like honing in on that one target issue, it became much easier over time.
Awesome. Yeah, that balance is incredibly difficult, but when you find that, well, that's why then you're the team to make that happen. Last question for everybody. If you could do one thing differently, doing this event again, what would you do differently at the next one?
I wish I had come up with more ideas after that, just to mix it up a little. I didn't really know what to expect at something like this. It's great, more ideas about it.
I would advertise this event as like something that again you have to come prepared to, and you cannot start from zero and have something. You have to at least have
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of people weren't ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What would you do differently?
I don't know, I think the whole weekend was a learning experience. I think the only thing was understanding for us that it was the nonprofit route would have been more valuable for us. We tried to go the for-profit route for a long time. I think that's just the only thing. I think personally I would have just picked the mentor's brains a little more, maybe had a few more questions, but I think overall very impactful weekend. I'm very glad that I learned everything I did.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Give it up for them one more time. next up, we have equal equity. Come on up, so we can get you all set up here. Your mic up. All right, awesome. Here is the filter. Whenever you're ready, I'll start the timer.
I'd like to begin by thanking the judges, the organizers, the facilitators, and the mentors for bringing all this together and making it possible. Today, I'd like to introduce a groundbreaking concept, one that will redefine the future of business development and entrepreneurial advancement. A groundbreaking concept known as equal equity. The problem is, startups fail for countless reasons and at staggering rates. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs lack planning and other resources, such as lack of capital, a marketing strategy, or the ability to have a social media presence. Today, I'd like to begin by introducing you to Mike. Mike is a first-time entrepreneur starting a mobile detailing business, but he doesn't know quite just how to start. He hopes to achieve success by having his first 100 clients in 30 days. The problem is, he doesn't know where to start. He fears that without the proper resources, he will waste time and money that he does not have. Our solution is Equal Equity, a single source research hub that provides curated information specifically catered to the business that Mike wants to create. Similar to the other 5 entrepreneurs we interviewed yesterday, Mike himself 100% agreed that he has no idea where to begin. In addition, Mike told us that he doesn't know even how an LLC is formed, how to achieve a business plan, and other things of that sort. Now, I'd like to take you on Mike's journey. Mike is a for-profit business. So he would go by selecting for-profit, at which point Mike will have an opportunity to search through other types of businesses, and he'll be able to select mobile detailing. At that point, we'll provide him with different resources, such as his ability to learn how to make a business plan, to gain the services, or to gain the knowledge of what services to offer. And doing that, depending on his learning style, we will provide 4 different methods of research and information, whether it's going to be through video tutorials, top articles, news, industry news, or the ability to communicate with one of our experts. For an annual price of $99, our users can gain access to equal equity and the vast resources we offer. Some of the expenses that we will incur for the launch of our MVP will consist of mobile development costs that we were able to get an estimate of roughly $10,000. In addition, the labor and the research that will go into further validating our idea. And finally, the marketing and content creation, which will further assist us in user acquisition. Roughly, we are expecting $2,000 per month in order to gain a solid stream of users. Our distribution channels will consist of different startup accelerators, incubators, and different programs that have a direct access to entrepreneurs wanting to start a business. In addition, we will focus on at universities and other events where we can further assist in the development of their business. Through our marketing strategy, we plan to focus on social media. The reason being is most new businesses themselves like to have a social media presence. And in doing so, we'll be able to really brand ourselves through the hiring of business influencers, maybe even Grant Cardone. Competitors and alternatives. One competitor is One Value. They have a product known as the Passport. The Passport is an all-in-one product that specifically helps tech startups. However, it doesn't cater to the vast categories of businesses that Equal Equity does. Another competing factor would be something as simple as a book. Yes, you can read a book and you can learn the same steps that maybe we could offer in 6, but that will take time and money and even further research to be able to understand what is the proper book. Some alternatives include doing nothing. You have the ability to further yourself through our platform, or you have the ability to conduct individual research, or just being stagnant. I'd like to introduce my team. My name is Adam. I focus on operations. We also have another Adam in the group who works on the strategy. He has a background in SaaS and computer programming. And then finally, Olson, a Davidson student with a background in technology.
All right, so over the next 5 minutes, our judges will ask some questions. Let's bring the rest of the team up, please. Let's have the rest of the team come on up. All right.
Thanks, wait for the team to come up. While we do, I'll just say you look marvelous.
Thank you, sir.
So with $99, talk to me about willingness to pay. $99 here, right? What am I going to get for $99 that I'm not going to get going to Small Business Administration just to Google?
So we're going to provide you direct access, and in doing so, we're going to have a specific expert that is going to be on top of that specific business. He'll be able to provide you the resources that you would be able to find on the internet, but without that professional background. For instance, if my doctor wanted to tell me something about my medical condition with his background, it would be intriguing to hear him out. But for an engineer maybe to come to me, I would.
So where did you account for those subject matter experts in the business model? How are you going to get them? How are you going to pay them? I didn't see that accounted for in your costs.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you repeat the question?
You said you're going to be connected with a subject matter expert, right? Of businesses. Where were they accounted for in the business model in terms of accessing and covering the cost of those experts?
So technically, I actually own a detailing business. So for the detailing business example, I would be the expert and I would work for free. However, for further advancement in different categories and different sectors of business, we personally believe that we will have to begin producing revenue in order to then kick it back out and to further accelerate the business. I'm sorry, would you like to reiterate on that?
I was gonna say, I think we can.
I apologize.
Take your time.
There's gonna be some sort of partnership or affiliations with these subject matter experts, such as consultants or outside parties. Maybe it's the detail shop, right? So the individual comes onto the platform, they say, okay, I want to start a company, but I want to talk to an expert. We then send our client to our subject matter experts who are partnered with us through affiliations. So the end user is essentially going to have to pay for that upcharge to the subject matter expert, right? Sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
That's a really good question on the subject matter expert. So if you have detailing, what you think about the number of service businesses you can have in entrepreneurship, you can have a landscaping business, you can have a house cleaning business, you can have, it's almost endless in terms of, have you thought of maybe consolidating their concept, say it's service-based businesses versus product-based businesses? Is my first question.
Yes, ma'am. So of course, there's going to be different routes depending on what platform, what's the product, is the service. So they said we can do so.
And then, so when I pay $99, if I own a detailing business and I want to learn from you, what exactly am I getting besides your advice?
So I am professionally certified, so I can also certify you. For instance, for the detailing business, I can have 1,000 ceramic coaters throughout the United States where you're actually partnered with Carfax. So once you coating a vehicle, you actually receive the investment cost right back because of our partnership with Carfax. So that's just one thing.
And my last question before I pass it on is, are you familiar with BNI, the National Business Network of Small Business Entrepreneurs?
I'm not. I am familiar with the National Auto Detailing industry or organization. It's something very similar, I believe, but more along the lines of caters to the detailing side of things and not the grand scope of business development. Thank you for your question.
My question is, so as a business owner myself, what's the plan in terms of helping those new business owners get equity or access to capital? Because that's the biggest thing. So I mean, I can see that website and all that stuff, we're paying $99 on you mentioned getting access to capital, where do you get that from?
Of course. So the user will begin by completing a questionnaire. That will be able to give us a better idea of who the user even is. For instance, I may have a credit score of 800, or another may have a credit score of 600. Maybe bootstrapping for 6 months isn't necessarily required, because with a good credit, I can get my own business loan. In addition, we will also be able to provide access to resources where they can learn how to properly use a GoFundMe. If I recall correctly, I remember you were talking the first day about your successful attempt at GoFundMe. I, on the other hand, am in month two when detailing business and I'm at $0. I don't know why, but I figured it out after quite a while. There's lots of videos and different marketing approaches that must go forth with crowdfunding. You can't just create a crowdfunding account and expect it to be profitable. So by doing different things, we will be able to provide them different access, different avenues of funding, and then the resources, the back end education.
All right, Taylor.
Thank you for the presentation. If I understand correctly, these affiliations with other, groups of entrepreneurs, associations are a key part to distribution. Can you say more? Why are those groups going to be excited to work with?
Because in the United States, you can't have a monopoly. However, on equal equity, you can. For us, we want to provide the best, absolute best value for our user, and in doing so, we'll make it competitive. For instance, for one of our partnerships, if they need to offer, let's say, logo services or a logo offering, there will be no other partnership that offers anything to do with logos on equal equity. So we will give them access to our users, and they will be the leading sector in their industry, optimizing.
Thank you.
All right, that's just about all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much. Let's give it up for equal equity one more time. All right, so while we make the switch and bring the next team up so we can get them mic'd, where is the next team? All right, there they are. Awesome. I've got a few questions for all of you. I'll take the clicker there. Thank you very much. So tell us a little bit about perhaps like the biggest takeaway from the weekend, the biggest lesson of the weekend, something that before you came in here, you definitely had no clue about, and now you're like, I can put this into practice. I can use this over and over.
Yeah, I think it's all on the importance of focusing on the problem and not the solution. And that goes deeper into the customer injuries. So who are you selling to? What are their problems, challenges, needs, and what does success look like to them? Diving further, earlier this week, we gave a piece of advice. If you receive a piece of feedback, don't try and explain further. If you receive a question, right, what does this mean, or this value does it come across? Just take that as the feedback, go back and iterate on your messaging, iterate on your product development, things like that.
For me, I'm a big fan of the method of failing fast and pivoting. Sometimes though, you don't have, in my head, I've had weeks or months before, but in this situation, you have 2 days. So for you to continually fail fast and pivot, fail fast and pivot, fail fast and pivot, it was very draining. There was maybe 2 or 3 times this week, for the first time in a while, where I just had a cloudy, foggy brain. I couldn't comprehend, I couldn't think. And at that point, that taught me to really embrace it and to think about what will happen when I am the CEO of a company with maybe 1,000 employees, and I have to be able to be a leader. That's one of the best things I learned.
Well, I do agree with both of the items. I don't really have a general takeaway. It's more so that I wish I cleared up my weekend before coming in here because I was really busy and I had to pop on from one task to another. So I just couldn't dedicate enough time to this project. But yeah, I really enjoyed this experience overall.
Awesome. So, last question. Tell us, for instance, if you were coming back to this event next weekend and we were running it again, what's that one thing you would do differently so that you can make a bigger impact? I think I already know what you're going to do because you already started it. So let's ask it to you.
Yeah, same as Fer's answer earlier. Come in with an idea prepared. I remembered my idea as soon as we started voting, and it was about 10 seconds too late. So coming in prepared and with an open mind.
The exact opposite. Coming in with no idea. Because an idea for me, coming in here, I almost wanted to be able to make it something that I didn't have the resources, the time, or other aspects that I needed to make it happen. So that idea was something that I thought was a blessing, but it was something that was really hindering me at the end of the day.
Anything to add? Maybe something else you would do?
Just clear up my schedule, that's about it.
You gotta commit. You gotta commit all the way. All right. Awesome. Let's give it up for them one more time. Thank you very much. All right. Let's get our next and final team. We've got Swap Box here. I've got your clicker, so whoever that main presenter is, grab that. That is go. Just point at the laptop and we'll work. All right, we can get out of your way as soon as you begin. As soon as you begin, we will start the timer.
If y'all don't mind just standing within that boundary.
Testing. So I'd like to introduce you guys to my friend Jane. Jane is a 21-year-old student at Davidson College. She's environmentally conscious and she enjoys thrifting and other sustainable fashion. However, Jane works with a low budget as typical college students do, which makes it difficult for her to practice sustainable fashion habits. However, Jane is not alone. Yesterday, we conducted consumer research at Northlake Mall as well as local thrift stores, and we found several major trends. We found out that the overall consensus is that many consumers want to enjoy e-commerce and want to update their style frequently, however, work with a low budget. And many current reselling apps are very difficult to use and they're very tedious and confusing. This causes these types of consumers to rely on fast fashion. But what is fast fashion exactly?
Fast fashion are companies such as H&M and Shein who produce very trendy clothes at very, very low cost, which makes them very appealing to low budget consumers. The problem with fast fashion is as it's gaining popularity in the US and other parts of the world, it's environmentally destructive and it has many unethical labor practices. For example, 700 gallons of water is used to produce one single cotton t-shirt, as well as 8% of all clothes end up in landfills, and 11% of all child labor globally is attributed to fast fashion. It's interesting that consumers that have environmentally interest support fast fashion, which don't align with their values.
And this is the market opportunity we're presenting to you today. The used clothing market is a $30 billion industry that is growing at a rate of 18% year over year. And this is the market we aim to disrupt with our idea, which is
Swapbox, the streamlined one-stop shop for sustainable clothing. So let's take things back to Jane. Say that Jane downloads our app as another online marketplace where she can shop for clothes and things. Now, while browsing, Jane comes across this flannel t-shirt that she's really, really into. And she doesn't necessarily want to pay cash for it because she values it differently than the website does. Well, Jane reads on the other user's profile that they're looking for a pair of shoes that she wants, that she owns but doesn't wear anymore. Instead of buying it for cash, Jane is able to offer a swap. When the swap goes through, people agree on the terms, and they both ship it out. It is a win-win situation. Neither of them have to resort to using fast fashion sources, and neither of them have to throw any clothes away.
wait, I do have a question real quickly. What is our value proposition in comparison to other apps and marketplaces?
Like Gavin was talking about, the number one and number two issues that people have with these online marketplaces is that they're clunky and that the price associated, hard price, does not necessarily mesh with the subjective nature and valuation of fashion. The swapping and the efficient design minimizes that.
Here's how we're gonna make money. We're gonna charge we're gonna have two different sources of revenue. One is going to be based on buying and selling, which is gonna take a percentage of the gross merchandise value. And the other one is gonna be based on swapping merchandise, which has two options. One option is with monthly subscription, and the option is by swapping events. So our key expenses with this vertical model will be based on technology, payment processing, packaging, and operational overhead.
Our go-to market strategy. In other words, what I'd like to think that we would be doing tomorrow if we came back in here and kept working, number one, we would work on branded pop-up swap meets. We would find vintage thrift stores like the places that we explored yesterday. We would sponsor events where they would sell clothes, but we would also encourage people to bring items that they are ready to swap so we can get the idea into the community. The other thing we want to do is a community marketplace exchange where people can locally trade, get the idea out. We also want to continue to work on our brand push, work on logos, stickers, water bottles, anything to get our name out.
So some of the competitors that we have are Depop and Poshmark, which are other sort of online marketplaces for clothing. The major difference, however, is our platform provides both sustainable fashionability as well as a marketplace and a spot feature that none of the other competitors have so far. Now, of course, there are challenges on the horizons that we anticipate, such as fraud detection, stickiness of our business, as well as the return policy. And this is where we come to you, our investors. Not only do we need money and capital to grow this business, but we also need your knowledge, your expertise, and your network connections that help us with these problems to see our business grow and scale in the future.
All right, thank you. First up, Pete.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Nice job. I appreciate how the whole team participated in the presentation. Well done. So I guess two questions for me. One is, if you think about, and I think you have terms of it, but if you think about one of the key issues with kind of peer-to-peer product movement is quality. Right. Is your plan to cross-stock this to do quality checks, meaning you're going to bring product in, check it, use or work with some kind of a certification, and if that's the case, if you consider that in the cost model?
So we originally thought of that, but we also want to take a step back and realize that that would be an entire business of itself that we would consider. We would need storage, we would need more workers, and we would need a variety of other things. At the very start of this business, we're thinking closer to the Facebook marketplace model. So that's one thing we thought about. But to answer your question, that's not something that we're planning on using user reviews. So kind of like how Google does it. Based on reviews rather than based on us making sure that the quality is perfect.
Yeah, I can add on to that a little bit. So when we first started off, we gotta have this base of items to trade and sell on our platform. So that's when the local thrift shops come in and the community interaction. So through that, we'll have credible sellers to begin with, and people who can trade with them that can develop their own reputation, own credibility through reviews. We're also going to exercise a very strict one-strike policy to make sure there's as minimal fraud on our platform as possible.
So you can rate each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uber like one. Yeah. So just one other quick question on you talked about actually let me hold it. I'll pass it over and come back.
Great presentation. And so if I'm a user and I pay $13 a month or $12.99 a month for the subscription, and then I find that through your marketplace concept that I want to exchange a pair of sneakers for a shirt, and I trust that user because of reviews. From the beginning, you won't have reviews, but you'll trust them anyway. Then who's paying for the packaging? And is that on me that I'm paying in addition to that $13 every time? And if I'm transferring something that costs $20 for packaging, I'm only buying something that costs $5 because I'm giving you shoes, but I'm only getting the scarf. How are you making that even, or have you gone through any of that? Or what's just the packaging cost of the user?
Right, so in the swapping model, both users pay for their shipping expense. However, if you are a subscriber, we provide you access to exclusive private community where we offer you information on cheap shipping, information on fashion trends, and all the valuable information that you can use to maximize the experience of that.
One of the main things we want to research when we continue on with this idea is what is the most efficient way that we use the post office to ship these things? What's a way that we can recommend to our people who want to exchange in order to minimize costs?
So again, my question came around that monthly fee. Why would I usually pay a monthly fee? What do I get out of it? What's the difference between that and I don't pay monthly StockX, I don't pay monthly sneakers at Facebook Marketplace.
So why am I paying one fee and then paying for shipping? If it's supposed to be cheaper and sustainable, paying to save money. Like that's $13 extra a month that I don't have to spend on other platforms or apps.
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer your question in two parts. Part one is, when we were doing conducting market research, we have a lot of people who go to these thrift stores and they also sell their Depop accounts or their Grow accounts or their Poshmark accounts. And one of the hardest struggles they have is their items oftentimes don't get recognized and they sit for 2-3 months, you know, and they don't make many sales. So by becoming a subscriber, you become almost like a platinum member, or like someone who's more prioritized. So your listings will be above others, as well as you'll have, you know, first info for the different community events and things of that nature. Also, the reason we included both a subscription model as well as a fee model is because some people really enjoy the streamlined process of having a subscription. We just have one cost a month, you don't have to worry about anything else but fees each time you make a transaction. And some other people don't like being tied down, you know, where they had to have a subscription and they had to back out of it and you just want to try it one time and make one transaction.
Yeah, the point being there that if you're gonna use it enough where the fee is gonna cost more than the subscription, that's when the subscription model will be easier.
Like a DoorDash or something.
So in general, when you think about swapping, right, it's a many-to-many solution, right? You're gonna have many customers selling many things and many customers selling other things. It's not often the same customer that wants the same thing the other person wants. So if you've gone through the model where you're swapping, but you're not swapping with one, you're swapping with one other person, but then there's some other person swapping with you. Like, your concept is not a one-to-one concept for the most part.
So yeah, we had thought of that, and one thing that we were afraid of, what would happen is that the clothes that you're trading become less clothing and become more like trading cards, or even we mentioned non-fungible tokens, where you just flip back and forth and try to even increase your own income by flipping the clothes. That's not really the point of this marketplace. It's about about sustainable fashion, and the person keeps flipping back and forth. So one idea we discussed was actually creating a policy, kind of like Cash App. Where Cash App, if you keep buying and selling stocks on it, they're going to stop you and say, this is not the platform for this is more of an investing platform, and they'll notify you. So we're planning on using something similar, where we're seeing the user constantly flipping and trading our platform like a stock trading platform. We'll flag that user and notify them. And if they keep doing it, we'll ultimately have to not get rid of them. Sorry, that's not the right terminology. But it's kind of like a striking policy to the point where the point of our website, our e-commerce business, is to have fashion be sustainable rather than flip it into this new asset class. We're constantly flipping that.
Taylor, you have a question for the team?
Sure, thank you for the presentation. I love your focus on just business model innovation, especially with the connection to sustainability. You all speak with a lot of confidence about how you're innovating, but how much do you feel that this is a hypothesis about a new model versus how much have you validated through your research that people are actively saying they want this?
A lot of people have expressed frustration to us when we ask them, or a lot of times when people want to use a platform like Depop or something to offload a lot of clothes or to sell something, they have a hard time doing it all at once, and they end up not getting as much money as they want for it. But I think people, especially the types of people who are looking for thrift finds or used clothes, are really going to be open to the idea of a zero sum, of a win-win of the exchange.
And I just want to take one note to both answer the question as well as I highlight my colleagues. These two gentlemen spent a solid 3 hours yesterday going around to Mclemore and going to thrifting shops and asking customers if this is something they'd be interested in. And that's where we got our pricing model, because we actually asked them, at what price are you willing to pay? Some people said 30 was too much, 20 was around where they wanted. Some people said around 5 to 10, so we thought 13 would be a good sort of compromise. So the validation, the research we spent doing yesterday in person, and we interviewed people through a variety of different markets, like a physical market.
There's two thrift stores down in Noda. One is called Old News Vintage, another one's called Rat's Nest. And there are also,
There were plenty of pop-up shops. That whole area is involved in that used clothing, vintage, thrift culture. So we have no shortage of responses.
And going off to the point about our confidence, this idea actually isn't arbitrary at all. Ryan and I are both avid thrifters, and we've
this pattern, in our generation, at our school, at high school, at Riley's College, and it's something that there's an interest for, and it's a growing interest. So it's something that we're passionate about in this house.
I can validate that. I saw them swap shirts yesterday, and I was like, what's going on, guys? Let's give it up for them. Swap box. Thank you so much. So the judges are now going to wrap up their notes, and we're going to take all of you into another room for a moment, an undisclosed room, because we don't want you all falling on us for a moment. But before that happens, I want to hear a little bit from you about your experiences. And let's start with biggest lesson learned. What's the big takeaway that you can apply to your respective jobs? Because all of you are doing very different things. So tell us what you are going to take away.
First of all, Roger, I'd like to thank you and all the mentors for being so thorough. Riley and I actually participated in a startup weekend 3 years ago, and the way that they handled versus the way we handled it was completely different. The way that we constantly felt like we were being checked on, and we didn't have mentors last time that we actually met together and talked. Such an educational experience for me, and I learned. We kept repeating, don't understand like if you're trying to figure out if you're better than your competitors. Put yourself in your customer's shoes and see what their true values are, what you need, and that's what I appreciate.
Well, I gotta say, the mentors was a lesson on its own. I now, whenever I'm gonna look for a mentor, I'm gonna seek out a mentor, just not everything I can do, because I was amazed. We would give a 5 to 10 minutes straight of us four talking, and then within 2 seconds, they would turn around and ask us like 5 perfect, whole burning questions. Other than that, I learned that business is not about money, it's about the customer. And I really appreciate the system that we had this week, where we literally spent our Saturday and Friday talking about the problem. The solution was not even in the room with them. It was just a problem with the customer, and that really helped us develop something that covered all.
I think the biggest takeaway for me this weekend is that a team is not defined by age group, but rather by purpose and sort of hard work, right? Here we have a rising high school senior, incoming first-year student at a university. I graduated college from Davidson actually 3 years ago, and here we have a business starter with a family, and we're all in one team, which is kind of what I said. I was like, wow, this is such an interesting array of people. But each person brought such a different level of knowledge and expertise that we were able to create all this entire presentation, and we got to know each other really well, yet each one of us is such a different part of their journey. And that just gave me so that gave me an understanding of what a founding team really is. It's not just you and people who are thinking just like you, right? You want to get a diverse team from variety of different points of view.
Okay, for me, I'm a starter founder, and I wish I had this when I was starting up. It was an eye-opener for me, and one thing that appealed to me with this event, well, 2 things. One, obsessing with the problem rather than the solution, and 2, that you don't need to have all the answers in order to bring up ideas in life. So it's really good.
That's big right there. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. And let's give it up for all of you one more time. All right, so that concludes the pitches for tonight. So what we're going to do now is take the judges away just for a little while so we can finish deliberating and talking about first, second, and third place. In the meantime, I invite all of you to join the rest of the participants, hang out, relax. You made it. Give it up for yourselves. Come on, give it up for yourselves. You made it.
deliberating.
Hey everyone, so we're gonna make some announcements. Let's see if this mic works. There we go, it does work. Okay. First of all, let's give it up for all of you one more time. You did a great job. I appreciate all the time you gave to this. This is an immersive learning experience. This is not a workshop, this is not a class, this is not something that you just kind of read a few pages or even a book. This is something you totally immerse yourself into. You as such, I know there were a lot of different kinds of demands at your time. We had someone flying in from Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so So, this is how I love delaying with the big news. You know, like, I just start finding all these things to talk about. But let's talk about some winners. Now, this is the kind of thing that even though I obviously know the answers, because, well, you know what, it was my score sheet, I still have to look. I understand how people at the Oscars can make mistakes. So I totally appreciate that challenge. All right, so I'm going to need a little bit of drum roll support, please. Thank you very much. Coming in at third place is Fresh Wheels. Do you still have our photographer on hand, or no, we got Liz on hand? All right, I think we got second place. I need somebody to, or third place to come up. Fresh Wheels. Fresh Wheels. Right under the congratulations. There you go.
Alright. Smiles all around. 1, 2, 3. Just kidding.
Oh, you gotta love that COVID humor.
I tried.
It's a category of humor. Pandemic humor. All right, coming in at second place, drum roll please. Coming in at second place, we have Mojo. This is where you stand up and join us up in the front. We've got our original photographer on hand. There we go. Congratulations. And we've got some cool little prizes that I'll talk about in a moment after I announce first. But you know what? Since it's first place and I like to delay that, let's talk about first place, the prizes. Well, you're going to get some copies of an incredibly important book if you haven't read it yet. This is incredibly valuable. Read it. And also get it on Audible and listen to it too. While you're running, while you're doing other things, very important messages. You're also going to receive 6 months of free Hub Club co-working membership. So that's a pretty cool benefit right there. 8 hours of complimentary meeting room space. I love that kind of thing, so I get excited about that. I want that too. You're going to get 1,000 Amazon Web Services credits as well. And like I said, you're going to each receive a copy of The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. So I need a really big drum roll to really help me bring up first place. And we got Swap Rocks! All right. Congratulations. There you go.
Nice job.
Thank you. And second place, you will also be receiving some pretty interesting goodies. 3 months of free Hub Club co-working membership, plus 4 hours of complimentary meeting room space, 500 Amazon Web Services credits, and of course, your very own copy of the Lean Startup. And third place, each member will receive a copy of the Lean Startup. Give it up for all our winners one more time. So really the most important thing, and I would argue even more valuable than all of this, is going to be the feedback that you get. The opportunity to get pushed, which you already did, but now to hear some expert, really expert level feedback about your ventures. Our judges have kindly offered to stay a little bit longer and give feedback to each team. So they've been assigned a specific team, so they'll stand up, share some feedback with all of you. My recommendation, if you really want to take this ROI to the next level, take notes. Take notes on what you hear and make sure that you do something about it after you do that. So let's start with Mbadi. You want to kick us off? Yep. Let me turn on the mic here.
So we can start off with general feedback from all of you guys, and I'll go with the group that I'll give the feedback for. So the first thing that I want to say is great job for all of you guys. That was incredible. That I put together for Friday night, which I put together today, so incredible job by every single team. The second thing I noticed is that you guys are really passionate about your ideas. You're passionate about what you're working on. So use your stories as part of your pitch. That's what wins pitch competitions, we get judges engaged. And when we hear, I didn't know how passionate you guys were about thrifting. If you start out saying, hey, me and Riley go thrifting all the time. And we even switch shirts over here the other day. I'm like, oh, okay. This is something they're passionate about, and let me listen to how they get their story. And so with that, I'll actually go into that group farm. So great idea, incredible. Your story is too powerful for you to leave it out. If you started off saying, hey, I grew up in Kenya, and I was in a rural farming area, here's my family, my friends, here's what I see, you need to have slumped into your story. You need to have us thinking, oh, okay, this is a life story this is something that's deeply personal to her, the problems she's getting at, and we're now engaged in it. Further feedback we have on there as well is when you're thinking about some of the issues you're dealing with farm there. Like Anjali said, she's built in that sector, and they had a similar issue in India. So you might want to look at something with India. She said that the situation was simply just translating the language software into Hindi. So it could be Swahili or any of the other dialects that we have there. You can also translate that as well into. And then also another thing we want to say is make sure you're trying to actually build a sustainable model. So is this something in a couple of years, or you're going to have donators there, or you're going to have people doing grants, it's going to be an NGO, and eventually have something where you have the farmers also pay you back on the end for doing that. Because you guys get a service, and so the goal is, once you've done all this, the farmers have their education, they have that knowledge. Now they're actually getting crops, they're making money, they're getting revenue, profit. Now have the farmers in turn give some back, pay it back to you guys. So now you can pay back to the community again. And so those are some of the general things. Like I said, great job once again. But every single one of you guys, when you pitch, I implore you, use your personal stories. Every last one of you guys. Because these are things I can tell. You just came with the idea, but all of y'all got attached to it, and it became a little, okay, I know somebody does that. I know somebody believes in that. And that's what really pitching is getting those people coming at their hearts, and then you can explain the business model, explain that stuff there, go there. But great job, thank you once again.
All right, thank you. Couldn't agree more, right? Storytelling, I mean, it is at the core of a good pitch, and he didn't say it because he's too modest, but he's won like 200 pitch competitions, and there is all kinds of money and all kinds of acclaim, but seriously, you think about the pitch versus the product, and everybody's had like 48 hours, I guess, the time here is super condensed, so you don't have a lot of time to totally get there. I appreciate that coming to us and giving that pitch in a short period of time is tough. I would say though, you can't spend enough time thinking about that pitch. Right? You can have the best idea in the world, and some cliche, right? If you can't bring it to life in a way that's compelling, authentic, and meaningful, then the product itself is always going to pale in comparison, right? And I think y'all did a great job. I'm going to point out a couple of things for the team that I had some comments for equal equity. I'll start with the pitch, right? And I think that this group, looking for, there you go, this group, you changed?
I did, sir.
Look at that. So even more is a stand up. I got to notice the quick change. Did you swap your clothes by the way with So look, he came, if you guys were at public presentation, he started off, he was dressed well, he made great eye contact, you could tell he prepared the beginning of his presentation well. I'm guessing he practiced that beginning a few times, right?
Once or twice.
Once or twice, so you had that down. So when he went through the presentation, you can see there were a couple times he had to refer back, but he glanced over, was back to the crowd, making eye contact, keeping that constant communication going with the team, which was good to see in a short period of time, hard to do, so I give you props for that. The business itself, I'll say, if you look at the business, it's called equal equity. It threw all of this off, I'll tell you, because equity was in the word. You've got 4 people, 5 people looking at it and waiting for when the equity was coming. How does this actually translate into equity in the business? And so there's some confusion there, and frankly, I think the big idea here that you had around bringing small businesses advice and expertise was great, but really had you just focused on mobile detailing and called the business mobiledetailing.com or whatever you wanted to do down that path and started your business there with all of the expertise and all of the value that you bring to that would have been, I think, a stronger proposal. And then look, where that goes, who knows? Amazon used to just sell books and CDs, right? Think about where they were. Last piece, I think buried in your presentation, there was maybe a better idea than the presentation of the product itself. When we got to it, teased out the idea that you were going to connect new business startups with experts. Look, I can go to Small Business Administration or to Google or elsewhere to get business plans and to get the litany of things that are more generic. But you can connect me with somebody who's already started a mobile detailing business, and I can get real advice from somebody who's already done it. That piece of that business plan I thought was brilliant, but it got buried a little bit in some of the rest of what you're trying to bring to life. So sometimes we think too big in doing so. There's a small idea, the kernel idea that could be huge, and we sometimes lose sight of it. But good job overall, well done. Taylor?
Yep, we are going to actually beam Taylor in. I think that's me. There we go. Yes.
Hey everyone, just to echo the other judges, a ton of respect for you all. The time that you put in this weekend, getting up there and pitching is really hard. Lots of opportunity for improvement, but the most important thing is you're practicing and you're starting to iterate and refine, and that's the most important thing. So just wanted to say that I have the opportunity to give some feedback to the Mojo team. I want to start off with just highlighting how important what you all are focusing on. I feel as though mental health is one of those areas where we're way behind as a society. So the fact that you're investing time thinking about it is critical. In terms of both my feedback and getting some other good ideas from the judges, we would challenge you to go deeper in certain ways. The first is the targeting of who you're supporting. There definitely seems like there was some great ideas that are emerging from the college community that you all understand so well. But that it was also broader that you were talking about at points. So one term that you might or might not be familiar with is the idea of an ideal customer profile. So continuing to refine that, really thinking about that persona. Because when you're going with a physical product like a box, and I know you all were talking about pulling multiple different options that could be in the box from the local community. The second that you kind of pick something, different personas are going to react to it differently. So the more focused you are will give you more leverage to really drive user acquisition and community building based on common affinity to what you would consider put in your box. I thought that you all shared some really meaningful ideas around pricing. $15 a month, and 130 or whatever that is, 180 a year. In terms of lifetime value for a single year is not insignificant, but customer acquisition is really very expensive. And so you need to think about your model in terms of how many boxes are people signing up for initially, and will you be able to get payback on what you're going to have to invest to go get those people? Additionally, on defensibility, physical products are tough. Sourcing from many different sources to go into a box and customizing, even harder. So think about that. Physical goods, especially when you are not in control of something that other people, like a really differentiated type of supply, like you can produce something no one else can, great, you have pricing leverage. But if it could be commoditized, you might get squeezed on price. So consider those things and keep driving on your mission to help with mental health.
I have the honor to have two, so I'll start with the press reel. So to go back to what the judges have already said around the storytelling piece. I think Serena, you have a connection to the whole food industry, so it would be great if you can start with that, your personal connection. I do want to say, I think when you think about food deserts, it was really hard. I really appreciate the comment you made on separating the food, wanting to solve for food waste, because we all hate food waste, and trying to solve for the food desert. So you did a really, really good job focusing on one problem versus two. But I got a little confused in the presentation. I talked to some of the judges and they did too. It wasn't clear until towards the end that you actually wanted to have a bus go to these locations, and you wanted the bus to be a place where they come and collect food. So we weren't sure. The majority of the presentation was it just a food delivery system? Was it a place where people come on? So, and then if it was a place where people come onto the bus, I think we had a lot of questions on the operations. What hours would you be open? Where would you find time stop? How would I know if you have the open again? So obviously, you gotta leave, that's all. But still, it's just, if you're gonna present the concept that you're gonna offer a bus where people come and get fresh fruit, it would be helpful to know where would the bus kind of, would it be by school, would it be, that was one comment. And then the other, I think it's really easy when we ask questions and customer validation, this is for everyone, not just for the food for wheels. It's how you ask the question. Because if you ask the question like, would you like healthy food, or would you like to have access to healthy food? Most people are going to say yes. There's a really, really great book that Liz will remind you what it is. Like, don't ask. The premise of the book is it's a red book that says never ask your mom if it's a good business idea.
Yeah, we were.
Mom, yes. And I felt like the questions that you would ask if you were presented were against the mom test. Like, if you're going to ask the question in a certain way, they're going to answer it a certain way. I'm sure food desert is a problem. But it would really hear more customer concepts. Like, I want food for my children that is fresh. And so something along those lines. But otherwise, really, really great job. It was a pleasure hearing your idea. Do I get a little bit? Swap box. So, first of all, total shout out for you guys standing in stores and like, as young men, I'm sure you had some fun talking to some young ladies. But, but some just general concepts there. And this is actually something the other judges mentioned, was separating fast fashion from an ESG concept. So you mentioned that fast fashion is a problem for the environment, but I didn't get how SwapBox solves fast fashion. Because are you not also maybe swapping fast fashion as well? So that was, if you're gonna go after the ESG concept, then maybe fast, and then you're gonna say, then you can say SwapBox does not allow you to swap fast fashion. So just a thought there, we're gonna separate the two. I love your comment, I think, Riley, on that you gained a lot from mentoring in this program. I'm actually on the board of Launch Lake Norman, which is affiliated, highly encourage all of you to take your ideas further and get mentors. This is what we did at Launch Lake Norman and at Davidson. We have multiple mentoring programs in this community, and these mentoring programs are also for, they're set up so that they don't have to be very long. And then the third piece was really around, I thought because you're so ESG focused, another option for you guys is really just to go after the ESG funding. When you think about how you're going to raise money, go after special funds around ESG. Last comment that I think the fellow judge raised, instead of going, actually two more comments. Perhaps a new thought process for swap box to start small is to go after targets like children's. Like you were saying, the children products are very easily upgradable. And you could even do swapping just for, it just allows you to start small as opposed to start big. But I think it would probably more fun to talk to young girls than, yeah. And then the last comment is the subscription model. It seemed like some of us were not 100% sold on the subscription model for people. It made more sense to have a subscription model for wholesalers. Yes, thrift shops, exactly.
One of the ideas that we also had is this could be the digitalization of thrift shops.
Yeah.
Like going to local thrift shops that don't have the infrastructure, the expertise, the knowledge. Exactly.
So you go to thrift shops, I can put all your stuff in the app, and people here that are college kids looking for stuff and pop up and buy directly.
Yeah.
They'll pay you guys money to be on it. You're giving them exposure, you're giving them customers.
So are your thrift shops saying you don't have platform or you're not,
Not, some of it's not.
They really find it super convenient, almost all of the comments we just said, quick, automatic, you know.
There's very high commission fees, about 12 to 13% on Depop and Poshmark. And it's too much hassle, they can sell it for 100% profit to the stores.
We actually did the numbers with Depop. They take 10% of sales and then 2.9%
transaction fee, and then 30% fee on top of that.
So that's like a $30 billion market, right?
Oh, we could leverage on that as well, yeah.
So otherwise, obviously, everyone, great job, and I encourage you all to take your ideas and get benefits.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's the penultimate word, as it were, and then let's put it over to Roger to close. Thank you all. This was my first ever TechStars startup weekend. I've been a TechStars mentor for 6 years, 6 years in Chicago. And I'm just so thrilled to be part of it. And I will give a shout out to Taylor because I don't know, it was probably, you can correct me, Taylor, but I think it was at least 4 or 5 months ago that we had our initial conversation, and he was the one that got me connected to all of the TechStars folks who run the weekends globally to get this kicked off. So that's many, many months ago. I do also want to thank my team who have been on the periphery. So, our Davidson student community ambassadors who've been working late into the evening with y'all to make this happen. Again, just quick PSA, Anjali already gave a PSA for mentorship, but building a lean startup, which is based on the lean startup methodology in this book, that starts October 6th. Amy on my team in the back there, hey Amy, she's the one who runs it. So this is open to anybody in the community, not just Davidson students. It is free for Davidson students, but we're happy to give discounted pricing. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn. Discounted pricing to anybody who attended this weekend and wants to continue with Rebecca Weeks-Watson, who's one of our phenomenal instructors. Please also, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, this is the kickoff of Innovation Week. Monday, we have over 18 different small businesses, including William with Petty Gifts, who will be showcasing Monday evening from 4:30 to 7. Come check out and talk to all the like-minded entrepreneurs in our area. Tuesday night, we'll do a showcase on students and open up our student art gallery. Wednesday, we're doing all sorts of workshops. Amy and I are teaching a design thinking workshop at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning. And then we'll wrap up the week with a huge community block party. We're shutting down the street outside. Food trucks, bands, cornhole, all sorts of other things. Davidson Wine Company will be big if you're old enough. We'll be I'm sorry guys, don't be the judge. But anyway, it will be a wonderful celebration of all things in this community. So without further ado, thank you, and thank you especially to Roger for facilitating.
Awesome, thank you. Give it up for Liz. Thank you so much. All right, so there you go. You've made it to the finish line. But this is really just the beginning. If this is an idea that you're really passionate about, I strongly encourage you to please continue working on this. You've connected with mentors, you've connected with awesome judges. We're all on LinkedIn. Reach out, get the insights, the advice, whatever it is that you need to continue moving. It doesn't have to be incredibly fast. You just got to keep on moving. And this was the very beginning of that process. So I commend you for putting yourself out there, testing your ideas, talking to strangers. It's not always so dangerous, sometimes it's good. So I'm glad that you did that and you were able to learn so much about your ideas. So take advantage of all of the incredible resources right here. I mean, this is very unique what we have, and wow, what a perfect time. We've got an entire week of events that are coming up. I kind of wish I was staying for this block party. I heard Davidson Wine Company's there. So that's, that and donuts, I'm good to go. So thank you again for the opportunity to be able to serve all of you. This is event 51. I'm really excited to make this my 51st event and the first one in 2 years, because goodness, it's the first event since COVID that I've been able to do. So thanks for the opportunity to serve all of you. Good luck with everything, and all the best with your ideas. Keep on working on that. Thanks.